Alrighty, hello everyone. Welcome to Legalbytes. I have with me, as always, my wonderful, I like to call him like my YouTube big brother. This is Nate the lawyer. He is a fantastic person, wonderful guy, great lawyer, great at doing, legal analysis, of course, as always, and one of the nicest people you will ever meet. I can't say enough wonderful things about him. So say hi, Nate.
Thank you. Hi. I appreciate it. But yeah, my name is Nate the lawyer, and again, I'm happy to be here, and I'm always happy to talk about hot topics in the news because that's what we're doing. That's what we're doing today. So
yeah, we definitely have a lot that we can talk about today. So, as we know, or as the viewers hopefully know by looking at the thumbnail and the title and whatnot, we've got, I mean, they got here somehow, right?
Yes.
We've got U.S. women's soccer. We've got the Blizzard Activision Blizzard lawsuit, and we've got the Britney Spears conservatorship. So there's a lot going on. So how about let's start with U.S. women's soccer. I mean, that's been the big topic on your channel and on my channel since we did that awesome collaboration video. And once again, thank you so much for having me on your channel for that, because that was awesome. I mean, my subscriber count has just jumped. I mean, by at least 850 subscribers, and for a channel a channel of my size, like that's an insane jump. So I really, really appreciate you pulling me in on that. That was so much fun working with you on that, and the video turned out great. So
the video was fantastic, and the response was fantastic, and it's good because I think like I always tell you, I think your channel is one of those channels that are going to blow up. But it's just people have to find you. People just have to find you, and I think that I'm just helping people find the good content.
Thanks, Nate. That really, I mean, I can't really say enough that means the world to me, because that's, it's so easy to just make YouTube videos and be like, is anybody out there? So it's just great.
Like you're saying, I was screaming to the void for so long, and I was like, when I started the YouTube channel, I didn't start it to make a channel. I just started to actually just make comments on different videos. So I was like, I'm going to make a channel just to make comments on videos. And now it's just, when I decided to actually, let's see if I can build a YouTube channel, it just developed, and I was just like, oh my God, this is something that can actually work. Oh yes, I don't have a dog. Well, I used to have both a dog and cat. Aww. Then I got married. Then my wife is allergic to cats and don't like dogs, so we're petless right now. But actually, it's it is what it is. But I
have enough to make up for the two of us. My poor husband, he thinks that now we basically own a zoo. I promised him when I brought the kitten in that we were going to be only rehabilitating the kitten and that she would find another home, but I don't know. I mean, she's really kind of climbed her way into our hearts. So who knows?
That's the hardest thing to do, is get rid of an animal. Like when I was a kid, whenever we took in a cat, that cat was ours forever. And that's when we were like, we can't bring another cat in. So it happens. Yeah. Oh, that's Chapman. What's going on? Oh, I see the crew's in the chat right now. Boom.
Yeah, be the next Viva and Barnes. Wow, that's a very, very high compliment.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Good morning, Lauren. Good morning. Yeah.
Oh. Boom.
So cool. So okay, so let's jump into it. So the U.S. women's soccer, obviously they're playing in the Olympics right now. A lot of people have been huffing and puffing about their losses that they've been that they've been having in the games, but that along with their legal losses, and now they just filed an appeal.
Yeah.
So
it's so weird because when I remember when I first kind of fell onto this case, I remember reading the lawsuit initially, and it's like, when you need a lawsuit and you're like, oh, well, it's like, wow, this is just as simple, right? It's this is like a no-brainer, right? I did not know how big that first video would get, and then it was just kind of like, oh, this is like something like a lot of people are interested in. So and it was literally just me reading the document. So I think when it comes to this issue, I think there was just so much it was coached in the media as one side being very sympathetic to the plaintiffs, right? And the reality was something a lot more complicated. And I think that's the thing that gave us value, even in the collaboration that we did, is because we were able to show people behind the curtain, right? It's like the Wizard of Oz. Let's look at the wizard behind the curtain and then see the actual facts. And I think a lot of people it was less it was two things. It was them being uneducated about what was really going on, and us then educating them on the facts and showing them this is what's really happening. And it being enough where people says, hold on, my opinions changed, not based on what Alita and Nate just said, but based on the facts of what actually happened. And I think it's the power in those videos and distributing them in the way we did.
Yeah. No, I definitely agree with you. And we were just chatting about this, just before we went live. We were talking about how much we enjoy making these sort of videos that are primarily trying to just stick to the facts, without just sort of spewing our opinion of stuff, and just giving the facts so that people can see them all packaged in one piece and then be able to make up their own mind from there.
Yeah. So. And I think that's the most important thing, because if you want opinion, go watch Fox News. If you want, go see CNN, right? They'll give you all the opinion on the issues you want. But I think a lot of times people are just tired of opinion. Listen, let me get the facts and let me come to my own opinion. Then I can go watch whoever else. And I think if we can do that, then I think that's the service that we can do. And that's the service that I hope to do for people.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Ditto on that. So let's get into the details on the appeal. So you said that there are basically two main bases for their appeal according to the documents, right?
Yeah. All right. So I read the appeal. The appeal's like 70 something pages long. So I read through it, and it's interesting enough to where, first, the issue that they're appealing on. They're saying that the district court made a mistake in granting summary judgment for their equal pay claims. And they really make two main arguments about why they believe the district court should be overturned on appeal. The first they're saying is that the court used the wrong standard in assessing their player claims of equal pay. And the second is that the court ignored their evidence, and what they call, overwhelming evidence of pay discrimination. And based on those two things, that the district court ruling on their equal pay claims should be overturned. And we can go into each one of those arguments, but those essentially are the two things. One, they use the wrong standard in assessing the claims, and then two is that the court ignored the claims of discrimination. Now, I do want to let everyone know, if you're one of those one of the law nerds from Emily, is that the standard usually on a motion for summary judgment is that the non-moving party, the facts are accepted as true from the non-moving party. So if the defendant, like in this case, US Soccer, filed a motion to dismiss. So what that means is that the court is supposed to accept the allegations of the women's national team as true and give them all favorable inferences when coming to when evaluating this motion for summary judgment. And essentially that's what the women's team is saying that the court didn't do that the court didn't give them favorable inferences. It didn't accept their allegations as true, because if the court did, then they wouldn't have been able to dismiss this case. I know I give a lot of law there, but that's essentially what's going on.
Yeah. The way that I usually think of a motion for summary judgment is you have, for every single claim, you have a certain number of elements that you need to meet, right? So like, let's say it's a negligence claim. You have to show that the defendant had a duty to do something or not do something, that they breached that duty, that the breach of that duty caused some sort of harm, and that there actually was harm. So you have all these elements that they're basically boxes that need to be checked. And so you need to have when you're doing a motion for summary judgment, you have to make sure that there's enough evidence, or there's at least some evidence that goes into each and every one. And when somebody files a motion for summary judgment, it's usually the defendant. It's usually the defendant saying, hey, there's a box here that's missing. There's no evidence. We've done all of the discovery, all of the evidence that exists, that can come out, has come out at trial. And no one is going to ever be able to fill this one box right here. So therefore it should be dismissed.
But because you can have one after trial, but there's also this is summary judgment before trial. This was essentially, they had gone through discovery and all the evidence was laid bare, right? They went through discovery, everything was out there, and the federation, the soccer federation, said, "Hey, if everything the U.S. women's national team is saying is true, they still can't win, right? Because
Right.
this is just not enough. Like a lady was saying, they haven't checked all the boxes, and that's essentially what they were saying. They were saying if all if everything is true, and so the court looks at it and says, so if everything you're saying is true, is your case legally sufficient to move forward? And the court essentially said no, it's just not. No reasonable jury could come to this conclusion because of the reasons we'll go through in a second.
Yeah. Yep.
So
Makes sense.
let me go. So so for the first issue, and I want to be let's talk about the first issue. So they said that the legal standard the court applied was wrong, and they make a couple of arguments. So the first claim is that they said, well, since the men in the World Cup, since the men can make up to $9 million if they win the World Cup, their rate of pay is higher. So that means that since the men can be paid $9 million if they win the World Cup, but the women are limited to 2, then that means that they $2 million, then that means that is discrimination. And the legal standard is that the rate of pay must be equal, not the that the rate of pay must be equal. So since the men's rate of pay or potential rate of pay is higher, then there's discrimination here. But just so everybody understands, the lower court said, well, the women's national team's rate of pay is different because they negotiated a guaranteed salary. And it's hard to explain, and it's funny because whenever you will listen to these U.S. soccer videos, you always say it's hard to explain, but it's a little difficult to explain. It's like you have 2 employees, right? Let's say, for instance, you have one employee who's a young woman, 20 years old, who has no kids, and she says, "Hey, it's a sales job. She says, "Hey, I want to get paid all in commission, right? Performance based. I want no salary." So her low, she can if she doesn't sell anything, she gets 0. But if she sells a lot, she can get her upside is tremendous. Yeah. But then you can have a guy who has a family, who has a wife, who has kids, and says, well, hey, I can't live off commission. I need something structured. I need a salary. And they'll say, okay, we'll just pay you $100,000. So the court is saying the risk involved in both situations has to also be added into the equation. The fact that the men can make $9 million, but there's also, you have to look at the downside to this too, where they can make nothing, right? The men are on a pay-to-play schedule. They can make 0, where the women can't make 0. They make $100,000 plus all these benefits. So also, if you're only looking at it on the way up, and as the court said, they're only looking at it because they only want all the benefits, but not understanding there's a lot of downside that they're not getting. And if they want all the benefits, they have to then give up that salary. They have to give up those benefits because that's the risk. They negotiated out the risk. And that's the first thing the court said. I'm sorry, I know it was long-winded, but that's really the first issue.
That's okay, because for some reason my internet froze for a second, so that was perfect. I know some people in the comments noticed, I think, but but I think that was the thing that really struck me. Nate is only paying her 70 cents to the dollar. That's funny. YouTube ad revenues are what are paying me. Thank you very much. No, one of the things that struck me is that, I mean, anytime that you are negotiating a contract, you are always trying to negotiate around risk and reward, right? So whatever risk someone is comfortable with is what they're going to be comfortable with. The thing about negotiating a contract after it's already been completed is that there's no more risk, right? Like, you know exactly what's on the other side of that tunnel because you're already there. So it's a very I mean, really, it's a very unfair way of contracting, because you're saying at the very beginning, well, I don't want any of the risk, so I'm going to minimize my reward. But then after everything's said and done, be like, oh, well, if I had known that I was going to get here, I would have negotiated for this. So give me this. So
yeah, no, you're 100% right, and sorry, and I think that's the main piece where this lawsuit kind of fails, is because they're saying it's like they're saying, yeah, at the beginning we'll accept the guaranteed salary, right? And then said, oh shit, we would have made more if we didn't take that salary. Now so we don't want the guarantees, we want the other deal. But that's not the way it works. That's after the fact. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
we can go into their second claim and check.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
hold on. Their second claim is that they argue. So their second thing about the standards is they argue that the law demands that an employer must pay women the same amount as it pays men for each measure of work, no matter what. And here they're talking about, because the lower court found that the women got paid more cumulatively and on a per game basis. So not only did they get paid more, but they got paid more on average. But the women are saying in their appeal is that the law demands that they be paid equally. So I'm not sure if they're saying they should be paid less for this, or you know what I mean? Because the two things that strike me with the second argument is that, number one, they were paid more, obviously, duh, right? And then the second one is not only were they paid more, but why would U.S. Soccer negotiate separately with both groups then, right? If I have to pay you both equally, I should only negotiate with one group, right? I should only negotiate with the players instead of having them separated to men's team and women's team. But then that we'll never have the same contract, right? I'm always going to have different contracts because we're going to be negotiating with them differently. Am I making sense?
Yeah, no, I think that makes perfect sense. Well, and then the other part too that needs to be, remembered in the whole conversation is not just the actual, pay, like the cash that they, went home with every week or every game, but also all of the other benefits, all of the health insurance, dental insurance, childcare, traveling childcare that they got to have with them. So yeah, I mean, unless really the U.S. Soccer Federation was just blatantly, violating the laws, but I don't see that, because so here's the thing too, is that this kind of contracting also reminds me a little bit more of, like, not necessarily your basic entry level, employee that will start working for a company. You say, okay, this is the work you're doing. The rate of pay is this per hour. Like you're not going to give that, or if you're going to be following the laws, you're not going to be making that rate of pay be different for men and for women. But this kind of contracting kind of reminds me more of the executive level negotiation of contracts, because this is a much more in-depth process where they actually had representation for them. They were, these were the players associations that were negotiating these. They, of course, they had lawyers with them that were negotiating everything. And so, when you're at that level, let's say if we put this into a context of, at the executive level of pay negotiation, you have a more of a discussion about not just, that individual and their experience and their, what they bring to the table, what kind of business they can bring to the company, what sort of, ways that they can improve the company. But then there's also the actual, like, market itself for other executives of that caliber, for what could this person be making at another company, at another big Fortune 500 company. So there's those sort of factors that come into play, and they can be different from person to person, and it can be different for a man and for a woman, just based off of experience level.
Yeah, but it's interesting because you're 100% correct, but I also think at the end of the day, and I think you hit the nail on the head earlier. This wasn't like, you had Megan Rapinoe going inside and arguing with lawyers. They had a whole legal team. They argued, and they were offered the men's deal, right? Here's the men's deal. Take it. And they were, well, no, we don't want that. And, I have a clip, and I want you, let me put this clip up. Now, here's a clip. Now, I don't know if I should share this clip everywhere, but so here's a clip of someone from the women's national team, right? Because one of the arguments in the appeal, because I know we're going to have to move on from the appeal, but one of the arguments in the appeal is that they were never offered the same deal as the men, right? Even though the judge said it, U.S. Soccer said it, now they're saying they were never offered the same deal as the men.
The judge cited to actual evidence.
I know.
In his opinion, that was evidence that was brought out during discovery. Okay, all right.
but they're saying they were never offered the men's deal. But now we're going to have, this is a member of the U.S. women's national team who was involved in the negotiations.
Okay.
And I want people to listen to what she says. Don't take our word for any of this shit. Listen to what she says. And
Okay.
and we're listening to the fact if they were offered the same deal, and the second piece that I want you guys to listen for is why they didn't take the men's deal. So here it is. Let me.
Okay. Yeah. Share
Let me
your.
share it. I'm sharing it with myself. I forgot I got to share it with the people. I'm sharing it with the people. Hold on. Share audio.
The people. All right. Here we go.
Here we go. You ready? All right.
Okay.
Signing a less than equal CBA.
Oh, sorry. Too far out.
Now that the thing that men's failure to qualify doesn't change that. The women must be compensated equally. And this fight is not going to end until the federation actually decides to do so. Now, the thing that worries me, and we can discuss, this at greater length, maybe some other time, but the only issue is that Megan led the team into signing a less than equal CBA. We were so close to having equal pay in 2016. It was set forth. It was offered to us. We were about to sign the contract with the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. We were moving forward in the right direction. And the new CBA, Megan Rapinoe, and the leaders of the team with the New Players Association actually went into that contract and signed a less than equal CBA. This is concerning for the overall class action suit. It's concerning for the overall fight. Okay? But trust me, we have history on our side, and we also have congressmen and women on our side, the senators on our side, and of course, the current president, Joe Biden.
So, it's like, what more do you need, right? What more do you need?
Yeah.
We were offered equal pay. They were about to sign it, and then they went in and signed a less than equal contract, right?
Yeah.
But now we have the politicians behind us. So this is not about equal pay. This is about something else, and they're trying to put pressure on the political piece. Go ahead, Alita. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was no. That's okay. I was just going to say that another thought that keeps coming up. When we're talking about evidence like this, that she was going around and telling her fellow teammates, like, no, you need to sign this other contract, not what the men have. That and the fact, just basically, even without that, just the fact that they were offered the contract and they turned it down. There's this concept in law, as called estoppel, that
yes.
Basically, it's that it essentially, when there's no other concept that you can fall back on, you can use the general concept of fairness and justice, right? That if somebody is doing something, they're making some sort of an argument that would lead to some sort of an injustice. That's the kind of argument that you can make out of an estoppel argument, to say that, like, no, they can't, exactly the kind of stuff that we were saying earlier, that, like, you can't, eat your cake and have it too, or have your cake and eat it too, whichever way. I've heard both ways said with that phrase, but you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, no,
like,
100%.
Trying to have things both ways. You can't do that under the law.
Yeah, and you can't have it. And you're right. You can't have it both ways. You can't go into a deal. They said, she's saying they offered us equal pay. We were so close, and then they went and signed the lesser deal. Why did they sign the lesser deal? It's because they understood the deal, the equal pay deal, had a lot of risk. That risk meant you could be paid $9 million, or you could be paid zero. Right?
Yeah.
You could be. That means they don't have to have any games. They don't have to do any of that. It could be zero. And they said, well, listen, we don't want that zero. We want to have that guaranteed salary. We want to have that guaranteed money. We want to have those benefits. We want those to be guaranteed. But to guarantee all that, you have to give up some of the upside. And that's why they went in and signed a deal. Now that they've gotten all that guarantee, because let's not forget, people, this is $100,000 these players are getting paid a year. So this is a 4-year deal. So Megan Rapinoe, she's a player that's been there for 4 years. She's getting $100,000 annually. That's $400,000. Where the men get zero. So remember last year we had the pandemic and they had no games?
Yes, I was just about to say that. Yeah,
they were getting paid.
The men were probably picking up stimulus checks or unemployment because the fact that they weren't able to make any money off of their contract. Meanwhile, the women are sitting comfortably with a nice salary, like
full
that
benefits, salary, the whole nine, right?
Yeah. That's just it's wild. It's wild.
It's the world we live in, because again, it's about we're living in a world where emotion is driving, I think, our legal analysis instead of just the facts. What are the facts, and how does it drive the legal analysis?
Yeah. Well, speaking of facts and more facts, unless there's anything else you want to talk about. Okay. I was going to say okay.
I think we're both going to be covering the appeal, but we have, I'm covering the appeal. So, check that out. That video should be coming later this week or early next week. So
yeah. Awesome. We're looking forward to your next soccer video in the long playlist of women's soccer on Nate's channel. It's great. We can't get enough of it.
Can't get enough of soccer, right? Oh my God.
Yeah. So then let's turn to one of the other hot button topics right now is Activision Blizzard.
Yes.
The lawsuit that was just filed at the end of last week. I just came out with a video on my channel on that one just a few hours ago, doing my own deep dive, just kind of going into the allegations and what they need to prove in order to win. But we can kind of go into some of the other sort of the other stories around this lawsuit, because as most people know, this is a lawsuit that was filed by California's Department of Fair Employment and Housing, the DFEH. They basically did a 2-year-long investigation of Activision Blizzard and found that they are discriminating against women on the basis of sex, and they're discriminating against them, in terms of pay, in terms of promotion, in terms of termination, and there's also a lot of sexual harassment that's going on there, and there's a lot of retaliation for women that are making complaints about the harassment and about the discrimination. So obviously, just like with any lawsuit, there's a lot of facts that are alleged in that lawsuit. So, any number of those facts could be true or false. It could be all, it could be none. My own personal thought is that it probably is not none, because of the stories that have come out over the years about Activision Blizzard. Like I mentioned in my other video, this is just one of those companies that people love to hate, because they've put themselves in that position where they are very, very hateable. Not only because of the working conditions that people have been talking about for years, but also because of we were talking, I mentioned earlier about the negotiations about executive pay. Their CEO, Bobby Kotick, he makes a ridiculous amount of money, like ridiculous. I remember this past year, there was a story coming out about how he decided to give up like 50% of his pay, but it's still like an insane amount. It's still like $150 million. Like that's crazy. What can anyone do with that amount of money, right? But, oh yeah. But that's the world we live in.
I think I'm going to share this screen, because I think a lot of people, when you hear Activision Blizzard, I think people know of they've heard of the company, but they don't really know. I think they'll attach more with the games, because I think everybody's heard of some of these games that Activision Blizzard has put out. So let's look at, here's some of the games so people can just put their head around it. We got Pitfall, Call of Duty Black Ops. We have
World of Warcraft,
Ultimate Alliance for Marvel, Guitar Hero. Like, we have all of these well-known games. You've probably played, anybody who's played any type of game has probably played an Activision game, from Doom to, it's everything. Tony Hawk. And the reason why I think this is a big story, because I think a lot in the gaming community, this has always been a problem, but I think now it's finally come to a head, because I think essentially in the gaming community, it's always been kind of accepted, but it just hasn't been challenged. And I think now this is the time to challenge it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think so. But I think, unfortunately, I'm not a huge fan of this lawsuit in general, just because having actually litigated these sort of cases, for discrimination and harassment and that kind of stuff, it's like you have one person as a plaintiff, and that is on its own a very large case to litigate through, because there's usually, a whole long timeline of events, especially when it comes to like harassment. There's usually a whole long timeline of events that you have to go through factually in order to prove what you need to prove for these cases. So when you have when you're talking about over several years and you're talking about a ton of women, I mean, this company employs like 9,000. They said, I think the complaint said like 9,000 people,
Mhm.
you know, and you know, I don't know what percentage of them are women. That they didn't say that in the complaint, but you know, it's when you have a lot of different vignettes, a lot of different stories, that gets a lot more difficult to prove, and especially to create some sort of a narrative that you can really bring all of those together into one case successfully.
Well, there are, I think, 3 issues with these employment cases generally, because I've handled a couple of them before. And for instance, the last one I handled was something very similar to this, where, you know, someone was being harassed. But the biggest issue is I'm taking it generally, since I'm a plaintiff's attorney, I'm taking on a contingency, right? Activision is a big company, and so for those of you who don't know, contingency means if I don't win, I don't get paid, right? So
Yep.
I'm doing all of this more or less on credit until let's see if I can get a positive result, while Activision, with their billions of dollars, can, you know, are loading me up. So it's difficult as a plaintiff's attorney to really, because your job is to get in, get out at the small, you know, at the least amount of money possible. And sometimes it's just not happening, especially if you have to depose people and do all that stuff. That just, it becomes even more and more and more expensive, the way it's like, damn, you know, you're spending, you know, it costs more. So I think here the difference is, though, with this case is that it's the state of California.
Yeah.
So it's deep pockets versus deep pockets. So I don't think you really have that problem. And the second piece of it, if the state investigator bringing a civil suit, generally when that happens, they do their research. I'm assuming they have the victims, they have the statements, and for them to make these allegations, it's going to be difficult because it's, you know, usually when the state brings a case like this, they don't bring it unless they have the meat to back it up. And that's what makes me a little bit less skeptical about this lawsuit than if it was just a regular lawsuit. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, and it's strange to me too that it seems like there are some claims that, I mean, if they're really going to, you know, throw everything out there, everything in the kitchen sink out there into the lawsuit, there are some potential missed opportunities. They can always amend the complaint to add more causes of action. But I mean, they mentioned how women of color are treated poorly, in particular because they're micromanaged. You know, so that's also a race discrimination claim right there. And then the whole thing about pregnant women.
That's crazy. Yeah.
I really was wondering why no one added any sort of a disability discrimination claim, because I've litigated actual pregnancy cases where someone was fired, you know, right before they were due, and those are not just discrimination on the basis of sex, but also disability, because you have certain medical restrictions that you need to take, and that's you know, if your employer ignores those, that's potential territory for litigation.
Yeah, but you know, also too, because you're right. When I saw the race piece of it, and when I saw the pregnancy piece of it, I'm like, well, hold on. There's a couple of, you even got some federal claims possibly here. It seems like there's a lot more here, but why would you kind of limit it? Maybe maybe this is showing our hand because we want to settle, right? We can hit you with a bomb, but we hit you with this as a teaser to get you to settle these claims. Or, you know, I just don't know. But you're right. It seemed to be lacking because there was the race-based claims, and I thought that was an easy win. If you're sitting there saying it in this complaint, if they're alleging race-based complaint, but they're not backing up with actually alleging it in law. So I just don't understand the difference.
Yeah. Well, let me get this super chat here. Manny Fabani, El Bizzle. I like that nickname. El Bizzle, as a former employment law litigator, I bet your experience affords you an uneducated and educated perspective. How has your experience shaped your analysis? I mean, it definitely, you know, like I was saying, you know, earlier, this is based on my experience. This is usually not the kind of case that is going to be very good for a group for a group or a class action because it's so incredibly fact dependent.
Yeah.
Each of these examples that they cite to, about, various, there are like several different examples that they gave about pregnant women, and then, women of color, and then, just all kinds of other examples. They, it's really hard to put that all into one case successfully. But I mean, we'll see.
I also wanted to it's interesting because when you think about the frat boy type environment, it's like, it reminds me of that. Remember the Facebook movie when Facebook started getting big and all these nerds started becoming the jocks that they hated? And I think that seems like what's going on with Activision here, where you have all these nerds who have now becoming the jocks who they hated, and they're doing the same exact thing. It's just, in another genre. Well,
and also this is also something that I noticed. I mean, I guess going back to that super chat is that, one of the core things about most of the cases that I saw that were these sort of discrimination sort of cases, a lot of times they seem to hinge on what HR did, what human resources did, because almost every single time the person that came into my office had complained to human resources, and human resources either did nothing or they made the problem even worse.
Yeah.
So, so if that's why, like, for a company that is managed well from the top, and human resources feels, either that they are, they feel supported by being properly organized, or I don't know. It's just, when human resources is functioning well, the company tends to function well. But otherwise, when they're not, these sort of problems tend to fester. And I think that here, with all of the stories that have been coming out about Activision Blizzard, I mean, one of the huge sort of, I guess you can even almost call it a trope, but one of the huge things about these gaming companies is there's crunch culture in a lot of these companies, that basically where they expect these developers to live at their desk for hours and hours and hours and days and days and days until the game comes out, and then it's a wild success, unless it's Cyberpunk 2077.
Disaster.
And I mean, we're still, so for anyone that hasn't seen any of the gaming videos, before on my channel, I myself am not as much of a gamer, but although I have started to play a little bit. My husband and I are playing It Takes Two right now. It's really fun. But my husband is the big gaming nerd, and he's the one that's kind of been teaching me over the last however many years now about gaming, and about my brothers did too. Like, I watched them, playing 007, back when we had a Nintendo 64 as kids growing up. But so I've learned a lot, like through his YouTube channels and everyone else that he's been watching. We've been watching stuff together, and I'm like, oh wow, that's really interesting. But crunch culture is a huge deal for these companies, and it's something that a lot of them are trying. Well, I don't know how much they're trying to change, but a lot of I guess reviewers and commenters are really calling on them to change them culturally. And I think that is the kind of the sort of environment that where things are particularly stressful at work, just across the board. Weird things come out in the employment space in terms of discrimination and harassment, and in all kinds of different ways, and on all kinds of different bases. So, I think that a lot of these problems probably could be resolved just by making the overall working environment better for people to live and work at a place like Activision Blizzard. I don't know. What do you think?
No,
I went on for a bit.
No, I definitely, I agree 1,000%. I think I do want to just mention is that I don't want to get caught up, because I hate going back to, even as an example, the women's soccer lawsuit. When I first read that case, I was like, totally, oh my God, they're being discriminated against, equal pay now. And then I'm like, oh my God, I read the reply, and I'm like, oh my God, I was wrong. I don't want, I'm just hoping I don't want to get involved in making that same mistake in this case, because again, these are just allegations, right? We don't know what's really behind them. And this could all just be BS, but my feeling is that there may be something more behind it. But I just want to pause and say, we haven't heard the other side of the story. We haven't heard the response, because the response could be just as compelling as the complaint. But as of right now, I think the complaint is interesting, and I do think they've done two things in this complaint. They've put out enough information to get the public opinion on their side.
Oh, yeah.
And I think the second thing is that now the response, they've put pressure on the other side with whatever their response is. Their response has to both go to legal arguments, but also has to be consumed by the public to say whether this or these allegations were good or not. So we'll see.
Yeah, and that's something that they've sort of fumbled over, since the filing of the lawsuit, because a number of executives have made public statements or statements within Activision Blizzard, and those statements have been shared outside. And they've gotten a lot of heat for that, because there's this perception that the executives that are commenting on this lawsuit are not showing enough empathy, according to a lot of people say, empathy for these alleged victims and whatnot. On the one hand, I definitely understand people's outrage. If they feel like this is a problem that has been going on for a long time. I know that there are many people that, I would say it's fairly reasonable for a lot of people to have already concluded that there is a problem at Activision Blizzard, because there has been so much in the media and on social media in particular, on the topic. However, at the same time, I do also understand why, an executive might want to sort of try to position a little bit of a defense in the public, because they don't want to go around and start making admissions to anything, even if everything is true. You don't want to go making admissions. Their lawyer will hate them for that, because it only makes their attorney's job that much harder when it's already incredibly difficult, and probably in a case like this.
Oh yeah. I'm assuming they're going to file a motion to dismiss. I'd like to see it on what grounds, because I think, reading this complaint, they seem to check every single box. I was like, I don't. It would be hard for me to attack this, and I usually can attack everything. I'm like, my God, they, it's like they've this, like what can I don't know. I don't know what they could do, but it's going to be interesting to see. They're going to have to lawyer the hell out of this one.
Yeah, and I will say that this complaint did do a really good job of really kind of breaking down into the elements, and really sort of showing, kind of like what we were talking about earlier with a motion for summary judgment. You have to check boxes, right? You have the same elements that have to show up in the complaint. You just don't need to have any evidence on hand for them yet. You just need to make the allegation, and you need to have enough facts, in your complaint to basically say, yep, we're going to meet this element, we're going to meet this element, we're going to meet this element. And they really did it in a very clean way as they were going through each cause of action. And so it was actually a pretty, on that level, it was a pretty beautifully drafted complaint. You don't always see that. And you don't always see the citation to the specific, not only the specific, the specific, the specific regulation, or, but here they also had the subdivision particularly that they were citing to. And that's what I'm used to in my own, litigation writing. So I really appreciated seeing that.
Oh, hold on. Give me 1 second. I'll be right back. Sorry.
Okay. All right. Cool. So Eldon Bailing, Legalbytes will probably enjoy these two games, Ori and the Blind Forest and Ori and the Will of the Wisp. Really good games. Ooh, that sounds interesting. I'm going to have to either take a note of that or make my husband take a note of that, because I am interested in learning more games. Other games that he's been playing right now while we're waiting for Nate. So he finally decided to start Detroit Become Human. I know I've had a lot of people on this channel that have been asking me to do a review of Detroit Become Human. After I did a review of The Last of Us Part 2, analyzing whether Joel was good or bad, whether he was justified. Anyway, so that's some fun stuff. But yeah, otherwise I'm enjoying doing playing It Takes Two with my husband. He obviously is way better skilled than I am at it, but yep, pretty cool. But Detroit Become Human is a very good choice-based game. Perfect. Yeah, I mean he just started it, and yeah, it's
sorry, that was my.
It's been pretty good so far. Oh yeah, no, it's okay. I'm just talking about video games. That's all.
No, my kids, because my kids are in camp, so I got a call from the kids' camp. I'm like, what the hell? So I'm not making sure everybody, no, nothing serious has happened, but just a little boo boo. So they just called me and let me know. Oh, somebody got a boo boo. I'm like, all right. It's anybody going to the hospital? No. All right, thank God.
Good. So have you ever played Detroit Become Human?
No. Detroit Become Human is a very good choice. No, I've never played it. To be honest with you, I don't know. I was like Madden, the WWE. I was like, real. I got Street Fighter. I have all these games here, and I have, to be honest, in my house, I have PlayStation. I had a PlayStation 2, 3, 4. Then I stopped buying. I had the Nintendo Switch. I got Wii. I have so many games here, but it's like at a point I just like stopped. Like I just stopped. I just like, it wasn't because I didn't like playing games. It just was like I just got involved in different things. I think it really happened after law school, because after law school, I was just it was just so intense, and I had to focus in on, because I really focused in, and it just like, it's kind of like after you miss that first one, the next game is kind of like, then, I'm not really into the next one, and then it just became like I'm not going to play anything. So
yeah. Well, I mean, I basically have now played on 3 different consoles now. So Nintendo 64 being my childhood Mario Kart.
That's like the old Nintendo 64.
I know. And my parents probably still have it at their house too. But
have you ever seen the emulators online?
The what?
They have emulators where you can go and download, like, for instance, I have the whole Nintendo catalog here on my computer, where you can go and down, because remember back then all the games were like 8 bits, so it's like you can get all the whole Nintendo catalog on like a 32 gig thumb drive or whatever, and you can play all the Nintendo games and everything right here on your phone, even the N64. You can play them all here on your computer.
Nice. That's awesome.
So you can play Mario, whatever. So
yeah. Well, I now have my own Switch because my husband got me that for my 30th birthday. I got my first game console. It was a very adult gift, but then I played Zelda for the first time, and I kick his butt regularly at Super Smash Brothers. I know how to smash those buttons. I will say that.
I haven't played Smash Brothers since, my God, it's got to be like 10 years or something like that. I played that in college.
They have it on Switch, and every single time I think I'm probably.
What's your player? Who do you play with? Link. Okay,
Link is my guy. I probably actually should diversify, because he might have a little bit of an unfair advantage.
I used to love Yoshi. Yoshi was like my guy. So
because then he turns everyone into an egg.
Then knock the egg off. Oh my God,
yeah. So anyway, well, let's turn to Britney Spears.
Cool.
So that was there was, I mean, this is one of those cases that is just, conservatorships, they can be actually a very slow moving, but this one, it's like every single week there's something new to talk about, because there's so much going on there. So, last time we got together, I think either on your channel or on Eric Hunley's channel, maybe, we were talking about how Britney had gotten the ability to hire her own attorney. And that, I think, is a huge deal, because that indicates that the court says, that they are, that she has a certain level of capacity, right? Mm-hmm. That we've talked before about how there's like varying levels of capacity for different decisions that you make throughout your life. Like there's a different level for, under the law, there's a different level of capacity that you need in order to get married, married and divorced, to enter into a contract, to hire a lawyer, all this kind of stuff. So that is a potentially positive thing for Britney Spears, that the court decided that it does have at least enough capacity to hire her own lawyer. And so now this week, he just filed a very, very extensive petition to have Jamie Spears, Britney's dad, removed as conservator of the estate. So basically hands off out of this case entirely. Goodbye, dad.
But did he file to end the conservatorship though, or he just filed to remove him as a conservator? See, and that's the it's so weird, because we're going down these, and maybe it's walking the stairs. But if her goal is to end the conservatorship, then that should be here too, right? Let's end the conservatorship. Why just remove the conservator?
I think that they probably, it seems like that's probably the overall strategy is they want to move towards that, but they figure it's going to be in several stages. And probably I was thinking about this too earlier, that I think that for Britney Spears, probably the biggest stressor right now is the presence of her father. And it may actually be that, once he's out of the picture, that maybe she'll actually be okay with having a conservatorship. I mean, who knows? I mean, at this point, so many, I mean, she's said publicly that she wants the conservatorship to end because of the ways that it's affecting her life. So I don't know, but I think that this could be part of the overall strategy to eventually end it, because maybe the thought is that, so long as dad is involved, this conservatorship is going to go on because he wants to really grip onto everything as much as possible. But once you have people that are professional fiduciaries, they have certain responsibilities above any normal person, even in the same sort of role, which, having a conservator still has fiduciary responsibilities as well. But when you have a professional person that is acting in that role, it's like an extra layer of responsibility that they have.
That's true. Now, I know a lot of people come here for the context, right? Because just so we're clear, there are multiple conservatives here, right? There's the financial conservator, which is the Britney Spears' father is, right? That's the one that they're trying to remove. But there's a personal conservatorship, right? That she wants to keep. So maybe that was the reason why she just wants to change, because she told the personal conservator, hey, I want you to stay. I want you to keep doing what you're doing. It's really just the father. So if just looking at it from the overall standpoint, it seems to me that she's saying, okay, I'm not happy with my father dealing with the money. I'd rather have somebody do that, right? Change that. But I am happy with the personal conservator. And that even is weird because most of her complaints were about the personal conservator, right? The IED, that is forcing me to work. That's all personal conservator. That's not the financial conservator. The financial conservator is like, this guy's not paying my bills. He's not sending me the right amount of money. That was never her beef. Her beef was the personal conservatorship. So now that she has her own attorney and she's telling his attorney what to do, it seems like the attorney, it seems like from my, again, this is speculation. It's just me reading the tea leaves. If matching what's happening with her public statements, it seems like she's saying, okay, I'm okay with the personal conservatorship, even though I said I wasn't, but I'm not okay with my father being a financial conservatorship. And that's what I want to change. And remember earlier, that's what she was trying to change too. She wasn't going after the personal conservator before. Remember they were co-conservators, but then the co-conservator dropped out and so forth and so forth. So it seems like that's the piece that's we're really focusing in on here, is the financial conservatorship and how can she remove her father from that place. She's tried before, and this is her second bite at the apple to do that. I think I've talked a lot. I know I've mentioned a lot, but do you think I'm totally off base? Because I'm okay with being wrong, but that's just the way I'm reading it right now.
No, I think that's a fair reading of it. I think that it also is also entirely possible that she may be thinking, well, for the longest time, I thought that was the best that I could possibly get, is just maybe not have my dad involved, or maybe have him minimized in his involvement. And I'm forever going to be locked away in this conservatorship. But, and it could be that now that she realizes that there's a lot of public support behind her not staying in the conservatorship, that she realizes this is actually possible. Maybe I should actually make a go of it and try for it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it does. It does. I think it seems like the strategy here, because when I first heard that she was just trying to remove Jamie, I'm like, this is kind of the second time it's happened. At first they were trying to move him, they didn't. They got a co-conservator. Now then the co-conservator left. Now they're trying to remove him again. But at no point did she move to end the conservatorship, or she's moving to even end the personal conservatorship, which she had the most problems with. So again, it seems like there may be more layers to. And I haven't even brought up the fact that she doesn't want to be evaluated again, right? Because even though it's evaluated, she doesn't want to be evaluated. So it seems like she's okay with the conservatorship. She's just not okay with who's running the conservatorship, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think, well, I mean, that much is definitely clear, that she for sure is not okay with, with her father running it. And another thing that I've thought about, sort of recently on those complaints that she had about like the IUD and all that kind of stuff, it could also be that she may have some sort of an awareness, and maybe this is true, maybe it's not, but it could also be that that he has some sort of a presence even on those decisions too. So even if he's technically just relegated to the financial side, he may be also sort of calling the shots on her personal life as well, possibly through the financial side. But one thing that I thought was really interesting too, I think it came out in the petition that was filed this week, is the fact that he is making, not only is he making, I think it was like something like $16,000 a month from his work in the conservatorship, which I don't know how much work he's putting into it to warrant that much of a salary from this particular role. I would imagine that it probably carries a lot of stress with it, at least at this point, with all of the media and whatnot. But I have never really heard of anyone making that much money off of a conservatorship. Because here's the thing too, is that when you have someone that is acting as a conservator, it can be a very, very time intensive job. It's basically like a second job that you can end up taking on. And so that can be a really big burden for a lot of people, particularly where someone is, usually these cases are where somebody is elderly and they only have a finite amount of resources. But the situation here and the second part about how much Jamie Spears is making is apparently he's paying himself a lot more than he's paying Britney out of the money that she's supposedly earning for everyone, which is, that's the part that's like, really like.
And that may be the reason why she's asking for the conservatorship to be removed, right? She may, and it's just so weird because this is a voluntary conservatorship too, and that's the piece that's killing me, is that just imagine you go in and because I'm assuming she really had issues at the beginning and 13 years ago, whatever. Yeah, you go into something and you agree to this conservatorship to help you, but then it's like you're locked in because now you can never get out. And I do feel for her in that sense. But the fact that she doesn't want to get evaluated, the fact that she doesn't want to remove the personal conservator, and the fact that she's only been attacking the financial conservator, it just it leads me to believe that there's some more facts. And I know the birth control thing offends anybody, right? It's that personal freedom. But the person who's saying that she has to keep the birth control in, she's saying that she wants that person to stay. Maybe is Jamie I've not seen them make an argument that Jamie Spears is the one doing the IED stuff, right? Because how could he? He's the financial conservator.
Which I do believe that Jody Montgomery, who's the actual personal conservator, over all of those personal and medical decisions, I believe she may have also filed a declaration to go along with the petition that Britney's attorney just filed. So I haven't had a chance to take a look at it because I've been so focused on the Activision Blizzard lawsuit. But I think she did. So it would be really interesting to see what she said in it, because I know that Jody and Jamie have really been publicly getting into spats with one another, and it's been in the news too. So here's a question from Lauren. Have you heard the voicemails her previous manager released? Have you heard those, Nate?
No, I haven't heard them.
So I didn't hear the actual audio of them, but I did read an article about them, and I saw that they had some of the sort of transcribed at least a part of one of the messages. And I do think that I'm a little bit hesitant to believe it. Again, I didn't hear it, so I don't know if it's actually Britney's voice. But basically, he claims that he has voicemails from Britney from 2009 or 2008 or whatever, right around this time, basically saying, I don't want to go into this conservatorship. I believe that it's wrong and all this kind of stuff, basically talking about how she did not want to be in it. And he's now coming out with these. Now that there's a big media firestorm,
floodgates, and everybody's making money, right?
These voicemails have supposedly been around for 13 years,
but they weren't worth anything. They weren't worth anything until today.
Of course not. Of course not. And then the other really big thing that makes me incredibly hesitant about them, about whether or not they're real, what his personal motives are, is the fact that he was her manager for like a couple of years around this time. And he may or may not have been one of the reasons why she went into the conservatorship in general, because he was kind of one of these guys that sort of like was like, oh, your life is in chaos. Let me get myself into your life and I will, surround you and sort of influence you. And he may or may not have been taking advantage of her. I mean, that at least, in the Framing Britney Spears documentary, that's the way that he was portrayed, at least in that documentary. So, so I personally didn't automatically trust, what it is that he's coming out with, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they're not real.
Facts. Yeah, I think there's a lot more, but I think right now, the good parts about it is that Britney has now been able to help this conservatorship go into the direction that she wants it to go, more likely. I think if she doesn't want her father to be in the conservatorship, I think the court should definitely grant that, right? Because it's obvious she doesn't want. This is like the second or third time she's tried to get him removed. They should just remove him with the new counsel, and then we see where it goes from here. I think it seems like Britney still needs some help, and I think she realizes that. I think that's the reason why she doesn't want to go for the mental evaluation, which is fine. But if the father is the linchpin that's giving us all the problems, then hey, he's done this for 13 years. It's time for him to go get a real job and and let Britney live her life. So we'll see what happens. So
yeah. Yep. So this is another edition of the crazy Britney Spears conservatorship saga. We'll see what next swing brings, right?
Hey, amen to that. Amen to that.
Yeah, for sure. So that's all that I've got for this week. How about you?
Well, that's it. Now I'm about to go and take the long ride to pick up kids and hopefully come back and eat some mac and cheese. I think there's a mac and cheese night and call it a day.
Oh, mac and cheese is great. That sounds wonderful right now. So
Next
week, what do you have for content coming out?
I'm doing the Activision. I'm going to do I got so many reviews. I mean, requests for the Activision lawsuit. So I'm going to do that. Yeah. So, but mine's going to be. I think I'm going to do more than my under 5-minute lawsuit reviews. Just like those are like the hardest to do.
Yes.
But those are the most fulfilling because when you get them done, you have to just cut out so much of the BS doing them. So it's just like boom, 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 boom. But obviously you're going to miss some context with that. But so I'm going to try to see if I can do that. I got I'm doing the appeal for the U.S. women's lawsuit, and I'm doing a couple other things. I'm trying to figure out what's good for the channel. Because I'm also a nerd in terms of He-Man and things of that nature. So I'm going to be trying to put some stuff out like that. And we'll be on don't forget we'll be on next week Wednesday with you at 10:00. So we'll be doing another week of these hot live streams. Thursday at 10:00. So.
I know it was Wednesday nights, Thursday mornings. We'll figure it out eventually.
Yes. But next week Thursday at 10 we'll be doing this again. So come over to the channel, jump in.
Yeah, for sure. Yes, it'll be on your channel next week. So I've got another live stream tomorrow. I'm going to have Rick Hogue from Hogue Law. He's going to be on my channel. We're going to talk solely about Activision Blizzard. Great guy. I've done one collaboration with him on his channel before. Really nice guy. Awesome dude. So I'm really looking forward to it. So that, and then there's a lot of stuff happening, a lot of stuff coming out. Just like Eldon Banling said, be sure to hit like. It really does help us with the YouTube algorithm gods.
Oh my God, you don't know. You guys just don't know how much a simple like helps. So please.
Yeah. Every like helps to make the world a better place.
and hey, we always up for suggestions too. So don't forget to hit those comments and let us know what you feel. And let us know, because I try to read all the comments. Well, I've read all the comments on my videos, but it's a pain, but I still get the notifications. So and I'm happy because as I grow, when you're going to get to a point, you just can't read all the comments. But now I know Alita reads all her comments. So yeah. So if you do leave a comment, we do read and we really do take it to heart. So, and I know now the trolls are going to get in here and be nasty, but it doesn't matter. Leave a comment and let us know how you like it. So
yeah, for sure. And Twitter too. So if you guys aren't following me on Twitter, I'm also on there. I'm a little bit less active than Nate. I'm trying to remedy that because I know you're really good about getting into the Twitter fight.
But the most important thing about the Twitter fight is that I always say this: if I feel I'm right about something, argue it passionately. But if I'm wrong, admit that you're wrong.
Yes.
Because a lot of people on Twitter are afraid to admit that they're wrong. I am not afraid. I am happy to admit, okay, this person is right. No matter how, like me and Nick Riccietta just had one where we were arguing very vigorously, and he was right. And I said, well, you know what? At the end of the day, because it lets you know that the conversation wasn't for naught. And a lot of times people are just afraid to listen to the other side when they think they're right. But if no one's perfect, and the fact that we're not is what makes these relationships great. So, so follow us on Twitter, because if you follow me on Twitter, welcome to the war. But
and then every once in a while you'll get me commenting in there and being like, well, actually, maybe it's this or maybe it's that.
Yeah, it's funny because I had somebody shocked the other day. They were like, I was like, oh, you know what? Because we were arguing for I was like, you know what? You're right. I'm actually wrong. I looked it up. I'm sorry. And the person was like so shocked. Oh my God, you really you apologize? Oh, dude. I'm like, yeah, if you're right, you're right. We are not afraid of facts here. We are not afraid of facts. So if you have facts, we love them. We love facts.
Yes, I think, and I guess, we can, sort of end on this sort of a note that I think that what it really comes down to is making sure that you don't over associate with your ideas. You are not your ideas. You are not the arguments that you have in your head. So if you can separate yourself and remember that, if the thoughts that I have, the arguments that I have about a certain thing, or the way that I feel, that I think about this particular topic, if that gets destroyed, I'm going to be okay. It's not over associating with them. That's super helpful for these kinds of arguments. Yeah. So that's what I found anyway. No, you're not always perfect at it. Easier said than done, right?
Oh my God, you don't know.
So anyway, all righty. Well, that's all we've got for today, and we'll see you guys in the next live stream.
Peace.
Bye.